Professional Development and Content Manager here at Sphero. Real quick, some of my background. I spent 15 years in public education, teaching technology and engineering, as well as 4 years in higher ed uh, in at Millersville University, which isn't all that terribly far from where you're at, just a little further north across the Pennsylvania line there. So I am no stranger to using Sphero products in my own classroom. When I was there, I was using Sphero long before I worked for the company. Feel free to ask questions, and I will gladly share my experience with you. So today we're going to talk a little bit about Indie and how to get started with it. Um, if at any time throughout the session you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat or raise your hand. We can address any questions as we go through there. Just out of curiosity, is there anyone that has used Indie already? Yeah, one. Yeah. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you for using Indie, and hopefully you still get uh, a little bit out of this session. You'll learn some things as we go through there, and you know, get to play around with this. If you have an Indie kit with you, great. If you don't, just follow along with the challenges. You get the idea as we go through it. I can go through there and feel free to share your experiences in there. I appreciate that. I'm going to jump between a few devices today. So please bear with me as I switch devices and get us started. So we are going to be again getting started with Sphero Indie today. So just a real quick overview of what we're going to get through. I don't know that we'll get through all of this stuff today in this session, but we're going to look at what Indie is. We'll look at computational thinking and how computational thinking works with Indie and what we're trying to do there. We're going to do a couple challenge cards, and then if we have enough time, I'll talk about some different kinds of activities that you can do with Indie that are beyond those challenge cards that are in there. All right.
Brad, before you go any further, Joanne has her hand up.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Joanne.
Sorry, that was a mistake.
Oh, no problem. No problem.
Sorry.
No problem at all. All good. All right. Normally we're doing this like somewhat in person. So I would say find a partner. But since we're all on our own here working virtually, take your indie kit and I want you to kind of play around with indie and figure out how it works. And you're like, Brad, isn't that the purpose of this session today? For you to tell us how it works and show us how it works? I like to point out a little thing that we kind of get wrong in education sometimes is we have this bad word called play, right? We're not supposed to play, right? We're not playing, we're learning, right? Well, playing with something is a great way to learn a lot about it, right? I based my career on that. So I get to figure out, sit down and play around with these devices, figure out how they work, figure out how we can use them to teach different concepts and write different kinds of content. So we're not going to take all 10 minutes, but I'm going to give like probably 3 to 5 minutes here. And I want you to just figure out everything you can about indie. Okay. You're not going to figure it all out in that time, and that's fine. But let's see what you can find. And then we'll ask some people to share out here. So I'm just going to start our timer here. And like I said, I'm going to give it like 3 to 5 minutes. So go ahead, take a few minutes, open up your kit, and explore what indie can do.
Is there anyone yellow? What is yellow?
All right, I'm going to give us about 30 or 40 more seconds to kind of wrap up our exploration, and then we'll go into what some of those tiles actually do. All right. So, did anyone figure out something they didn't know about indie? If you did, go ahead and unmute and just blurt it out, whatever you might have learned.
That you should always know where the red tile is for when you need to quickly stop it.
Ah, good observation. Yeah. Some of us, as we've started to use indie more and more, got pretty good at tossing this thing in front of indie, right, to stop it. Yeah, definitely. Anyone else have anything they learned?
That it can actually read our colored floor tiles, so it doesn't always go the way you plan.
Ah, interesting. So you actually have a color on the floor that's really close to one of the other colors. Just out of curiosity, which color?
So we have blue tiles and yellow tiles on our school floor. So as we were doing it, I didn't think it was going to read the tile, but it did. So it kind of was an interesting challenge.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good one. Interesting. Anyone else have anything they learned?
When I
Order
was
of the tiles.
Okay.
Looking at the card, you want to go top to bottom, but that's not the way you should make it start.
Yep. Always make sure you're aiming the robot in the correct direction. And when you're looking at the challenge cards, every challenge card is slightly different in how that orientation works. Yeah.
Yeah, noticing the challenge cards, there's a lot of fill in the blanks that you have to figure out. It's not just clear cut.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to go through some of those challenge cards and we're going to take on some of the more challenging ones today since we are adults and this is designed for our earliest learners. I like to throw you into the deep end, pretty quick here. But just note that when we start with our students, we certainly don't start with the toughest challenge cards first. And we can talk about that here in just a few minutes. All right. Well, thank you everyone for sharing. I appreciate everyone participating as we go through here. So, what do each of these different color tiles mean? Well, green is go and go faster. So, Indy has three different speeds, and we always start Indy on green. And what happens is every time Indy crosses another green, it will speed up. Once it hits its top speed, you can add more green tiles and it will just continue at that top speed. It won't go any faster than that top speed. Then, similar, we have yellow, and yellow slows Indy down. So, Indy, again, with those three speeds, once it hits the bottom speed, it won't go any slower. It will just continue on in that throughout there. Then our red tile is stop, or as I like to call it, it's the boring stop because once Indy hits red, it just stops. Versus when it hits purple, it celebrates. So it spins around, does a little dance, plays a little tune, right? And it celebrates that we've accomplished what we were trying to do here, hopefully, right? And once most students discover purple, Those red tiles are like, we don't need those things anymore. We want to see Indy dance around and celebrate because it's just more fun. The next four tiles are all different turns. So pink is 90 degrees to the left, blue is 90 degrees to the right, orange being 45 degrees left, and teal being 45 degrees to the right. And you're like, Brad, this is a whole lot to remember. How do I remember these things? So when I first got my Indy, I had that same problem. So here's what I came up with is when we're looking at the right side of this chart, the blues, the pinks, the orange, and the teal, here we have warm and cool colors. So pink and orange are our warm colors, and teal and blue are our cool colors. So when you're having a debate with someone, you always want to be right. So it's cool to be right. So the cool colors will always turn Indy to the right. So that's how I remember it. Feel free to come up with your own neat way to remember that. But the way I remember it is it's cool to be right. So Indy is designed for our youngest learners. We say pre-K through second grade. That being said, I've seen some really interesting applications at the middle school and high school level as well, where we're digging further into the technology or using it for some interesting experiments and math skills. So some really pretty interesting things that you can come up with here. But the content is designed for those elementary learners. It is completely a screenless experience. That being said, there is an app that goes with this. It is 100% optional. If you are interested in the app at all, at 2:40 today, there is another session where we talk about that app and how it works and what we can do using the app with that. The magic of Indy is that onboard color sensor that gives Indy those commands on what to do, right? So all of those different colors have those different commands to them. The whole concept here is we want to support our students expanding their computational thinking skills. And we'll kind of dive into computational thinking and what that looks like here in just a few moments. But it's a fun, engaging, play-based learning system where we kind of encourage our students to do problem solving. And just to reiterate, there is no app or device needed. That is all optional right there. So on this graphic, first of all, I promise no indies were harmed in the making of this graphic. It was just some good old CAD files here, and we kind of get to pull it apart digitally to make this kind of thing. But this is a little bit about how Indy works. That color sensor that's on the bottom of Indy, you can see the color sensors right here. And on the bottom of the robot, it's kind of gray and white. That circular portion of the robot is the color sensor. And the reason I point out the color sensor in detail here is there are stickers in the student kit, and students love to decorate Indy. And don't worry, the stickers are easy peel stickers, and they're actually reusable. So you can peel them back off of Indy and put them back on that sticker sheet if you want. Or if you walk away to talk to another teacher or someone else, and a student decides to, like, decorate your laptop or anything like that, don't worry about it. They peel right off. It's not a problem. But when students are decorating Indy, they have a tendency to cover that color sensor. And if they do that, if they cover it up with a sticker or something like that, Indy isn't going to function properly. So just take a look. If you're having an issue with an Indy, flip it over and take a look. Make sure that color sensor is free and clear, that there's nothing covering it or that it's covered in dirt. When Indy is on, that color sensor will light up. There'll be some white light that's around it. Indy has two motors. It's rear wheel drive. just like some cars. And when we look at Indy on the inside here, we have these little gearboxes that are here. And those gearboxes are contain a clutch system inside of them. And what that means is when Indy is picked up, sometimes students have a tendency to just grab Indy like this, right? They grab all the wheels, even though the wheels are spinning, versus us as adults, we tend to just like pick it up by the front and back and avoid those spinning wheels. It's just the nature of things of how students, work with the devices. And what you'll hear is when students grab a hold of those wheels while they're spinning, you'll hear this like it almost sounds like a grinding noise. Don't worry, they're not hurting Indy. What's happening is those clutches are slipping in there, and it is designed to do that. It's protecting those motors and fingers or hair or anything else that's in there. If you have Indies that are maybe more than a year old, it's worthwhile updating them, meaning download the Sphero EDU Junior app and one at a time running the firmware update. Because what you can do with that new firmware update is when you pick up Indy, if you tilt Indy when it's picked up, it'll automatically stop. Okay. So what that prevents is, the student that picks it up and then sticks it in their hair or things like that and get hair tangled in the wheels or anything like that. Um, if they pick it up and tilt it any of those directions, it's going to stop immediately. So that's worthwhile updating to have that little feature that's in there. There's a couple different LEDs that go with Indy. The headlights that are up front, you can actually configure those in the app if you want. And there's also what we call a light pipe that's on the very top of Indy. It's in the shape of the Sphero logo. And what you'll notice is that when Indy is on top of a color tile, that light pipe, that logo, will turn whatever color that the color sensor is seeing. So if you set it on a pink tile, even though Indy is not moving, that logo will turn pink. Indy does have a speaker built into it. Again, you can adjust the volume of that inside of the app if you so chose to do that, but each command has a sound that's associated with it as well. There's also two ways to charge Indy. On the back of Indy, right in this little, this smaller opening that's on the back of Indy, is a USB port. So if you took just one Indy home with you for whatever reason, maybe today's session, right, you can charge it using micro USB cable and any old USB wall wart charger that you can plug in there. Or if you have a class pack, that yellow case that came in there, Indy has two little contacts that are kind of copper or brass colored that are on the bottom of the robot. And that is where when Indy slides into that yellow pack and you plug the yellow pack into the wall, it will charge all 8 Indies at once. And you can get rid of the USB spaghetti mess that happens with charging individual robots. You can do it with one cord plugged into the wall in one case. All right, so let's talk about computational thinking. So there's 4 pillars to computational thinking, right? The first one is decomposition. And this is where we simplify problems into those small manageable parts. So I always like to talk about NASA when it comes to this because they are the masters of decomposition. So if I said to this group today on here, hey, we're going to design a spacecraft to launch some astronauts into space. You're like, wow, Brad, we are teachers. I don't know if that's in our skill set, right? But if I said, hey, we're going to design the seat that the astronauts are going to sit in the spacecraft, I just took that problem and I broke it down into individual parts and simplified it so that we're just looking at one little piece of it. And NASA does this very, very well. right? We want our students to have those same kind of skills. So be able to break these challenge cards down into the individual pieces and get them working through that. Our next pillar is pattern recognition. And pattern recognition is where we identify and analyze those different patterns or trends in information. And indi is amazing for pattern recognition. We'll notice every time indi goes across a blue tile, it turns to the right. But if you look at the blue tile, there's also like a raindrop kind of shape that's there, right? You'll see that. You'll also see the word blue is printed on it. Our students will start to pick up on those patterns and start to associate that color with that word and that word with that shape. So we have all those different patterns that indi is just so amazing at bringing out for our students. Our third pillar is abstraction. And this is where we want to represent those real complex things with a very simple model. So we're representing coding and problem solving by having this robot drive over these individual colors, right? So it's real simple. It's a simplified learning environment that we've done or that we've created for our students to kind of work our way through this. The students will also practice abstraction as they are progressing throughout the different activities that are with indi. Our last pillar is algorithmic design. And this is the one that gets a lot of people, and everyone says, listen, computational thinking is great, but it's only for people that are going to work directly with computers all the time, right? It's for our programmers and those kinds of industries. It's really not true, right? We can use computational thinking in our daily lives, solving problems, because it's a problem solving framework that doesn't even include a computer, right? So don't let algorithmic design and the word computational in computational thinking make you think that it's only for people going into those computer science fields. It's not. But that algorithmic design is where we generate the steps, the sequence that we're going to use to solve a problem. And if you're really, really good at this, right, and create a really good sequence, it might solve all kinds of different problems. It can almost become a framework in itself. So those are computational thinking. I'm going to skip over our video for the time's sake today because I want us to be hands-on with our indi. So we're going to take a look at those challenge cards that are in your indi set. There are 15 challenge cards in your set, and they're numbered 1 through 15. And there have been some revisions to these as you go through. So it depends how old your set is of which number the card actually is in here. So you'll notice when I give you a challenge today, I'll omit the number, but I'll give you an idea which card it might be, depending on which set you have here. But the challenge cards start from the beginning. Start with challenge card 1 and work your way sequentially with your students through those. And they kind of up the difficulty as they go further and further in those challenge cards. I'll talk about resources that are available for indi, but we actually provide you with a way to generate your own challenge cards, or even maybe the students generate their own challenge cards to go through there and really push them further and further with this concept. So, with that in mind, we are going to take a look at our first challenge card. And this might be like 10 or 12 in your set, depending on what set you have, when it was produced throughout there. But we're going to solve this challenge card. So what I want you to do is take a few moments if you have an indie set in front of you. If you don't have an indie set in front of you, you can still take a stab at this one. Use some post-it notes or things like that, and just write the colors on them or on a piece of notebook paper, however you want to do it, and go ahead and try and solve this. If you have the indie set in front of you, I encourage you set those in place, and actually give this thing a shot. You'll notice that the challenge card has a grid there. That's just to help you align some things. When students are doing this, they're not going to have a grid sitting there in front of them yet to be able to do that. So, let them kind of work to help align these things and get them into straight lines. And you might have to assist depending on the students. But let's take a couple minutes and go ahead and try to solve this particular challenge card.
Quick question. Do the tiles have to touch in order for Indy to keep running?
No, they do not. Actually, so Indy will travel approximately 1 meter or about 3 feet or so without seeing another tile. If it doesn't see another tile, a color tile that it recognizes in that distance, it'll eventually just stop. But as you'll see here, I'll actually switch my camera. Here, you can see on my floor, I do not have my tiles touching together. There's open space in between them, and Indy will continue to travel. It's a great question. All right, so let's get started taking a look at this particular challenge card. So I'm going to switch over so we can see my actual layout here on my floor. And we're going to start Indy on that center green tile. I'm going to leave Indy turned off for right now so that Indy doesn't run away from me. But Indy will sit and start on that green tile going forward as it was given to us with that little arrow pointing on the challenge card. So it's going to travel towards that first question mark. And does anyone have any idea what color tile might go there?
If you do green, it will go faster.
If you do green, it'll go faster. Anyone do anything different there?
I put yellow.
Yeah, so there's actually multiple answers to this particular question. So as I remove that, I also put yellow, but you could totally put green there as well. And the difference is Indy will travel faster versus Indy traveling a little slower. So once Indy starts, we're going to hit that either green or yellow tile. We're going to hit blue, and blue is going to turn Indy to the right, and Indy is going to start traveling towards that next question mark that's there. And anyone have any idea what tile might be there?
Blue.
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 All right. So I also agree. It should be blue. So when Indy hits that tile, it's going to travel towards the third blue tile, which will again turn it to the right. It's going to cross green, which will speed it up. And then it will again cross another yellow, which will slow it back down, heading towards our third question mark here. Any ideas what we might have for this question mark?
Pink.
Pink, yes, 100%. So Indy's going to hit that pink tile and turn to the left, traveling towards the last pink tile that's here, and going to our last question mark. And this is another one where we might have two different answers that come in here. And what might they be?
I put pink again, so it'd keep going.
Oh, interesting. So you made it a loop. Ah, great
Yes.
idea. So you could. So I'll give you that, and I'll say there's actually three answers then. Right? So you
I
could
did
put
purple. I would say I did purple so it would celebrate.
yeah, absolutely. So I did the fun stop, the celebration, the purple, but it could also be red, the boring stop, right? Where Indy just stops. So to see what this looks like as it goes through there, if anyone doesn't have an Indy with them, the way this is going to work, I'm going to take my Indy and on the back, I'm going to hit the power button. Indy's going to light up, play a little tune. And the important thing is when I set Indy down, I want to make sure that Indy is facing the right direction and pointed towards the direction I want it to go. So we hit blue, hit our next blue, and our third blue. Speeds up, slows down, turns left on the pinks, and Indy dances around and celebrates, plays that little tune, right? And if you've ever worked with students doing this, this is the point where the arms are in the air and they're dancing around and they're cheering because they're excited that they finally solved their challenge as they go through it. And if you don't believe me, go ahead and work with students with it. It happens all the time. When I run in-person trainings with adults, they end up doing the exact same thing. It's just an indie thing, I guess, right? For us to go through it, right? So it is fun and engaging when you go through these things to do that. So this is not a basic kind of challenge card. This is up the levels pretty far. You don't want to, again, start with this one. You want to start with things that are a little bit easier. But I do want to take this up one more level yet because we're all adults here and we like a good challenge. So we're going to up this one more time and we are going to solve this challenge card. And so take a few moments and go ahead and solve this particular challenge. And I'm going to take mine and set mine up. Yeah, so I just saw the question in the chat about the mat that I have on my floor here. This one is a prototype. Matter of fact, I have round 2 of prototypes are in the mail to me right now. Hopefully, I'll have those in the next couple days and do some rigorous testing. And then after that, we are hoping that sometime in quarter 1 of 2024 that the mats will be available for purchase. One side of the mat is a grid like this, and the other side of the mat will have some other really cool graphics and things on it that there will be some challenge cards that go with it to allow some really cool kinds of activities to go with it. So just something to keep in mind. It's coming. So hang tight on that idea. In the meantime, laying out in a grid like this is sometimes really helpful for students. Once they get the hang of it, they don't necessarily need the grid. But at the beginning, the grid can be helpful. I'll also show you another cool little thing that we provide for free that's helpful to aim Indy in the correct direction. It's a cool little assistive piece that goes with it. So let's work our way through this particular challenge card. I do want to point out one thing. Up at the very top of the grid, there's an orange tile, and you'll notice that it's turned at an angle compared to all of the other ones that are aligned parallel with the grid. This one is turned at 45 degrees. And because it is sat there like that, we have that's kind of like a helpful little hint for people that are trying to solve this particular challenge. So we're going to start at the green tile. We're going to move to that yellow tile and then hit that first question mark, which is kind of right in the center of our grid. Anyone have any idea what that might be?
Blue.
Blue. All right. So it is indeed blue. It's going to make our Indy turn to the right and go towards that pink tile. I do want to point out that there is no other option for this one, right? Some people get hung up on this one, but if we look at where that blue tile is and we start to check out our different routes here, if we were to turn left, use pink, it's not going to run into anything else. If we were to turn left 45 degrees, it's never going to hit anything else. If we were to turn right 45 degrees, it's the same thing. It's never going to hit any other tiles as it goes through there. So it's kind of that process of elimination. This is the only direction that Indy could go. So once we hit that blue, we're going to turn to the right. We're going to hit pink and turn left, and then come to our next question mark, which will be
Orange.
orange. Orange is that 45-degree left-hand turn. It will send Indy headed straight for that other orange tile. And this is where it is turned at a 45-degree angle for a reason. So the tiles are sized specifically for Indy to hopefully only read the tile one time. That being said, it is possible that Indy reads a tile more than once. It does happen. There's all kinds of factors that can go into that. But we, generally speaking, want Indy to approach the tile directly on. So kind of perpendicular to the edge of the tile. So that's why the top orange tile is turned at a 45-degree angle. So that way when Indy hits it, it's approaching this way and then turning. If Indy were to go diagonal across the tile, there is a chance that Indy reads it more than one time. As we approach our third question mark here, what might that be?
Pink.
Pink. We are going to hit our pink tile and send Indy over here to our fourth question mark, which again might have more than one answer. What are those two possibilities?
Green or yellow?
Green or yellow? Yeah. I chose green this time because I want to speed Indy up. It's going to hit pink, slow back down when it hits the next yellow. And we have one last tile that we're unsure of. And what might that one be?
Blue.
Blue. We're going to hit blue and send Indy to that awesome little celebration that's there. Remember, you could substitute out the boring stop, as I call it, the red as well. So let's see what Indy looks like solving this. And of course, the fun little celebration at the end, right? Showing how we got all the way through our challenge. Yes, and they will cheer as well, which is great. I love it. Yes, thank you, Carrie. That's awesome. So just looking at the chat here, I see the question was, should we put some other kind of fabric or something under the tiles? You really don't need to put anything under there. If you had a really like high pile carpet, it could be a little bit of a problem. And in that case, you might want to put something down like, you know, a large piece of like butcher paper or something like that, just to smooth out the surface a little bit, or a piece of, you know, an unfolded cardboard box or something like that, because it can get caught in the carpet. It's designed for kind of those harder surfaces to go through. So just a good helpful tip on that one. All right. So moving forward, I know we only have a few minutes left. So just some ideas that you can do. Storytelling with Indy is such a fun activity. A couple weeks ago, I was at the Actum conference in Maine, and I did this in person with a bunch of educators. I think we had about 30 different educators in there. We broke into groups and we did a storytelling activity where Indy becomes your main character, and then you decorate Indy, you make set pieces, and then you use the tiles to have Indy travel around to the different scenes as you're telling your story. So a lot of fun bringing in those language art skills, those art skills, and of course the problem solving skills to go through and have Indy kind of complete this. Just a lot of fun to do that. You can add in additional little challenges, like if you have more than one character, use more than one Indy. You must reuse at least one tile. Your story has to go in a loop. You have to have at least X number of different turn commands, right? So there's all kinds of fun challenges you can add into this to, you know, take it up a level or bring it down a level depending on your students. You know your students the best for that. In the Indy class pack, there is an educator guide. It's a printed version of this. You're looking at the table of contents right now on the screen. From that educator guide, there's tons of ideas of different things you can do inside of the educator guide. If you're like, hey, Brad, I've had my student kit for a while, and I've been looking at this, and I don't know where this book is, where I don't think mine came with it. When you flip open the lid of the black bag that everything comes in, there's a zipper in the lid. unzip that, and inside of the lid to that is the book, a bunch of extra sticker packs, as well as cardstock tiles. If you need a couple extra tiles to use, there's extra tiles inside of there as well. A lot of people miss that second zipper, so don't feel bad if you're one of them. I was too. It took me a little while to find it and go through there. But take a look. That stuff is in there for you to work with. Lots of really cool ideas, well beyond the challenge cards that are in there.
And if I may, real quick, Brad, we also wrote a resource book for AACPS that should also have been included with the kits when the media specialists got them. But if not, I'm going to drop the link to our site where you can find our resource book as well. It has additional lesson ideas that align to our standards and everything here in Maryland.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you for that addition. That's awesome. Just FYI, we do have a competition called Sphero Global Challenge, and Indy is included in there. So just take a look at that, of how that, if you want to take it up a level and have your students competing, that's out there. And Indy visiting the zoo was one of last year's challenges for that. And what happened with this particular activity is you had to create a zoo for Indy to navigate, as well as take another Indy. And what you're able to do with that is have Indy, the second Indy, act as the animal, right? So you had the animal, and then you had the people that were kind of going exhibit to exhibit to visit the zoo. So some really cool ideas. Every year is unique for Sphero Global Challenge, and it also covers. We have challenges for Indy, we have challenges for Bolt, as well as Rover and other products that are in there, depending on the grade level of your students. So there's all kinds of mission objectives that go with it to be able to do that. Since we only have a few minutes left, right here is the kit reset. This is a great little thing that's there. But if you have the blue box in this for the student kit that's there, in the lid of the blue box is a cheat sheet. So right here I have my blue box. Right here is the cheat sheet for everything. Down here is the kit reset. All of the tiles that are shown here belong in the student set. So there is a cheat sheet there. You don't actually need to take a screenshot of mine, although if you want it to hang on the wall, that might be helpful. I know you'll have access to this recording later as well for that, but it is right here inside of the student set. I do want to point out one more resource for you, and this is on our website. So if you go to sphero.com and then under lessons and resources, click on Sphero Indy. There are all kinds of different resources that are in here, how Indy works. There's all kinds of different things here. I'm going to click on the resources button, and that educator guide that I mentioned earlier, there is a button here. It's a free download to download it. So if you're a digital kind of person and you want to take a look at it from a digital point of view, or you want to take screenshots out of it, things like that, you can download it for free as a PDF. You have the ability to download the latest versions of the challenge cards, or again, if you like to throw them in presentations, this is a great way to do it. But you also have this DIY challenge card. And when you click on the DIY challenge cards, it's going to open up a view-only version of a Google Slides presentation for you. And you can make your own copy of this by going up to the File menu and make a copy of the entire presentation. And these are drag and drop icons. So you can drag and drop them in and build your own challenge cards just like that. If you're more of a print person and you want your students doing the traditional cut, copy, and paste, we also have all of those available in that slideshow that is there. So check those out. All kinds of cool little things. We do have other resources that are on there, so please check that out. One of those things being the Indi Garage, which is an aiming aid to get you started. This is a free STL file that we have where you can take this and 3D print it, and then attach it to a cardstock tile, and then you are ready to go. So I know we're almost at time here. If you have any questions, please hang around for a few minutes. I'll gladly hang around for a few minutes to answer a couple of those questions. And I appreciate everyone participating and working through this. If you're interested in more and how to use the app, I'll have another session at 2:40 specifically for the app. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it.
And Brad, we thank you too. I am just going to put a plug. You had mentioned the challenge cards. We took those as well, your blank template, and I'm going to drop the link in the chat in case everyone doesn't have it. We also put those into Wixie and Nearpod as well, so that if people want to use a different platform other than Google Slides, it might be a little easier for their students. They're going to be there. So it's on that link that I just dropped in there, along with our resource book, links to a lot of the stuff that Brad shared here, along with some of the other things that we have put together. So that's all on that creative coding websites that we have, and you'll find that in the orange folder on class link too, just so you all know that's where you can find that too. All right, I have to scoot because I have to I'm presenting next. And so Brad, thank you again. I definitely appreciate it. You're in good hands, and I will see you for the last session at the end of the day too.
All right. Thank you very much, Carrie. Take care.
Bye-bye.